In every breath I take, I will praise you with my life. Have you lost faith in today's church or Christianity? A next generation pastor turned singer-songwriter, Sean Rodriguez, and his family took a leap of faith in 2022, leaving behind the familiar landscapes of Colorado to plant new roots in Nashville, Tennessee. His faith to follow his calling threw him into the spotlight a year later. His message and music of hope is turning the hearts of today's generations toward God, and he can turn yours too. This is his story. This is today's Nashville. This is faith. Sean, what a blessing to have you on today's Nashville. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I've heard a lot about you. You've been busy since 2022, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a lot in a short amount of time, but God has been so good, and just beyond thankful for what He's done.
Now, you started out as a family pastor.
That's right.
Were you in Colorado?
I was back in Denver, Colorado. Grew up in the church. My grandfather, he was and still is a pastor for over 40 years now. And so I had the incredible honor to just learn how to do ministry, how to love people, how to lead people, and how to serve people from him. And so when the time was right and God did what God did in my life, I was able to step into that family pastor role, working with children's ministry, with youth ministry, and occasionally getting to speak into the lives of the parents and the grandparents on a Sunday morning as well. So it was an incredible blessing for sure.
How old were you when you accepted Jesus into your life?
Oh man, that's a solid question. So I grew up, my situation was very unique in that I grew up knowing who God was and having that relationship because my family placed a lot of emphasis on that. When I started to really get serious about who God was in my life and who God could be in the lives of others who let him in, that was right around 20, 21 years old, when I just started to see the culture that I grew up in. It was a very negative culture. Grew up in the inner city, and the church that my grandfather runs, I mean, there's projects on all four sides of it. And it was a culture that had just a negative influence on me and my friends and the young people coming up there. And when I hit about 20, 21 years old, I hit this point where I realized, God, this isn't the best that you have for us. Like, surely this can't be what your plan for us was.
Like, what was going on?
So it's a very kind of a toxic community. And I will say this, that a lot of the teenagers growing up there, and myself included, we look up to, we looked up to the gang culture. Young women, you're talking about the young women who were, getting pregnant at 16, 17 years old. But we all just were taught that was life. And that was what the culture taught us, right? Now people say, well, wait a minute, Sean, your grandfather was a pastor. Didn't you know any better? Yes, I knew better, but also because of that, I experienced what power the secular culture can have over somebody. To say, I grew up in the church and I was still influenced by this stuff. Now imagine not knowing God, where all that you have is this secular influence. And so that got me fired up to say, no, we have to reach out to the generation coming after me, and we got to show, especially in the hearts of the kids and the middle schoolers, we have to show them that there is another way besides what their culture and community are teaching them. And so that's what really got me fired up about pouring into that next generation, is showing them like God has so much better for you. And I think that's really what Jesus did, even in the Bible, was he didn't come and tell people, stop acting the way you're acting, stop living that way. He came in and said, stop, here's a better way. He didn't just tell them to stop, he didn't just shut them down, but he showed them a better way, the way that they were made to live. And so that was the heart behind the family ministry for me, is like, let me help you guys realize that there is something so much better than this. And so that's where it all started for me.
Was there a point in your life, a moment that just, you were almost at the point where it's like, oh, which way to go?
I would say that came in the late teenage years. And that was really sparked by, my questioning of the church. And it wasn't so much questioning God, it was more questioning the church. And that just comes from church hurt. like a lot of people within the church are imperfect, and you run into so many people that may be using God in the wrong way, representing God in the wrong way. And that's discouraging, and it truly does hurt. So when the time that I experienced that the most in my life was in my late teenage years, just kind of being let down and being hurt by some people that I thought were mentors in my life, that I thought were leaders in my life. But the transforming power of God that I saw in the lives of people that came through the church, that was undeniable. So no level of church hurt was ever enough to turn me away from who God was, because I saw how he really got a hold of lives. And so I said, God, all right, I still want to serve you, but I'm a little bit upset with some church folks right now. Show me what to do. And it really was that message of be different, be that church person that you wish you had in your life. Be that mentor, be that leader that you prayed for in your life. Everything that you've learned what not to do. So now go and do what you would have wanted to be done.
I think that's a great message, because we were just talking about it even today. So many people are leaving the church because they've been hurt, or they don't think it's relevant. People are questioning their faith.
And it's so true. And we have to have grace, because just like they fall, just like we get mad at them, well, we're not always perfect either. Church hurt goes both ways, and it could happen to anybody at any time. But for anybody that's experienced that, the imperfection of the people in church, we would just remind them that they're not the ones that are supposed to be perfect. God is the one that is perfect, and that is continuously working in our hearts. And so if you've been on the receiving end of church hurt, well, have faith that God still has that transforming power and that God is still for you. And if you've been on the dealing end of church hurt, know that you can still be redeemed from that. Know that you can be forgiven and you can move forward. And God can even use the things that you've done that you're not proud of. God can even use those if you say, okay, that's not who I am anymore. I'm doing this the right way, and I want to use what I've done to change what I do going forward, and I want to treat people better. So there's always a way out of it. There's always a way back, and that's why God is who God is.
It's wonderful. So how old were you when you decided, okay, I'm going to go into being a pastor, ministry, and you became the family pastor at your church? How old were you then?
So I was about 25 years old, and I had been serving in the children's ministry and in the youth ministry up to that point. But the title became official around 25 years old, and that was a big responsibility for me, because it was, here's the children's ministry, here's the youth ministry, it's yours. Do with it what you will. And so it was weird, because I'm stepping into this ministry and I'm being asked to lead people that are 20 years older than me. And it was one of those like, God, are you sure? Like, this is where you want me to be at? But what I felt God tell me is, if you're here, it's not by accident. Walk in confidence, not because of what you can do, but walk in confidence because I will lead through you, and all I need you to do is be obedient. And once I grasped that God had me here on purpose, well, then I was able to run in confidence with everything that we did from that point on.
Amazing. He had a purpose. He led you there. He led you to Nashville, and we're going to talk about it when we come back.